Okay, so here I'm going to talk about a little bit of drawing eyes. Now, when you're drawing eyes, it's really important to think about the fact that eyes aren't just two-dimensional, they're three-dimensional. And your eyeball is simply put, it is a sphere. So, there we go, that's a nice sphere. So think about it that way. You've got the sphere of your eyeball here, and then you need to think about the way that the eyelids interact with that. Now, the eyelids are going to be on each side of the sphere, so you can just kind of put a little dot there and there, just to kind of remind yourself where it is. The tear duct is going to be around here, and it's kind of like a little squiggly shape, something to think about. And then you've got your eyelid. So you can think about whatever shape you want, and for the basic eyelid, I'm going to do this one right here, just kind of like the straight on look. Now, if you have something like a piece of clay. Now, I know I've said it 1.5 million times that it's really important to do not just 2D work, but 3D as well. And this is something that I think really comes in handy when talking about something like that. So give me a second to grab a piece of clay. There we go. Okay. So I've just got to knead this up a little bit. And I just have a piece of polymer clay here. So it's just some white Sculpey. So I'm going to warm it up. And this is also one of the ways that I make my pendants and all. And this is one of the most basic ways that people will teach you how to sculpt facial features. So I'm going to take a little bit over here and I'm going to roll it into a ball. And this is going to stand in for the sphere that I was talking about. So the sphere that is your eyeball. Another thing that people will do when they're sculpting eyes is some people like to, instead of actually sculpting the whole iris and all, they'll just take a tool and make a little dot in it. And that way, if you're looking at this right here, you've got that sort of like the iris and pupil look going on. So just something to think about. So I've got this here, and I'm going to roll it into just kind of like a flat little thing. Oh, my dog is upset because he can't come in. So this is the skin around your eye. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a little slice there for where your eye comes out. And just for lack of anything else, I've got a coin. So it's just like this. And those are your eyelids. Now there's the top eyelid, the bottom eyelid, and one thing to think about, your eyelids do have a thickness to them. They're not just flat. Grandma, I've got the hamster down. Okay, sorry about that. So your eyelids do have thickness to them. So that's something to think about. If you look at this picture here, you can see the little bit of that rim. And if anybody ever wears eyeliner, you've probably been familiar with that. So I'm just going to kind of slice this sucker up a little more. And then your eye sits behind that, okay? So that's just something that hopefully will help you think about how the eye works, because it is a sphere underneath your skin. So we've got our sphere here, and if we're doing just a straight on looking thing, this eye is slightly tilted upwards and hidden by the lid, but it does have just a gentle slope upwards. Now think about the fact that your eyes are always going to be pulled in whatever direction your pupil is. So I've got the top bit there, scoops down, and since the pupil isn't going to be, or the iris isn't going to be up here, there's really no pull and it's just a gentle curve. So I've got my gentle curve there, and I'm going to show the inside of the eyelid right like that. Now one thing that's interesting to note is that your tear duct is always going to be just a small triangle. It doesn't really open up. So you've got that small triangle there. Sometimes it comes over into the side like that. Generally, there's going to be some kind of like fluid over here, or at least some shading at the corner of the eye, because remember, this is a three-dimensional object. So the thing catching the most light is the part sticking out the most, which would be your iris and pupil. And like I said, since it's pulled slightly up, so is the eye. So we can have that right there. So we're going to color that black because it's already black. Another thing for when you're looking at doing eyes, think about the light source. I'm going to use a red just as the light source to kind of show the angle that it's coming at. So if the light is coming this way, it is going to not hit where your eyebrow is, which is generally right up at the top. So I'm just going to draw kind of like an eyebrow here. So you've got our eyebrow. Now, if the eyebrow is there, and that's the most forward-facing thing, so I'm just going to do highlights in red. Generally, you've got the bridge of your nose here, which is sort of like a triangle, you know, in between your eyes. Now, since this part comes out, because remember, there's a sphere underneath that, which I totally forgot. Depending on your eyelid, it's going to show up more or less. Now, since my eyelid's here, the eyelashes kind of overlap right about here, and you just see the eyelid over on the side. So I've got that like that. Now, if you have an eyelid here, that flap is going to be covered, so I'm just going to shade that blue. Then there's this portion right here that is going to be shaded because it's covered by the bridge of your eye. There's actually a little nugget by your tear duct that kind of pops out a little bit and then comes down along under that sphere. That sphere is generally where people are going to get lines, and sometimes, like with my eyes, you have just a little crease there. And it'll be shaded just a touch, but not as much as this outside portion here, where it really dips in. You can actually take your finger and kind of feel how this goes. And by all means, try experimenting with your body and trying to feel the way that things bulge and go in. Now, if the light is coming this way, this is going to obviously be shaded because it's hidden a little bit more. And same thing with the bottom here. Now think about the way that this works right here. If you look at your eye from the side, oops, I'm going to do it right down here. If you look at your eye from the side, generally the iris kind of goes like this. It will pop out just a little, but you'll see the pupil is kind of like a disc. And think about it that way. It's sort of like a clear, like a Jell-O mold dome on top of just a plate with a dot on it. So the light will hit it in a different way. Now, if your light is coming from over here, you'll probably have, oops, the shine kind of coming over here. Think about how it's going to interact with your eyelid. And just a quick rule of thumb, wherever there's light hitting super hard, it's going to be dark around it, because that light has to pass through the top here, and it's only going to hit the bottom portions. So, sort of like that. So I hope that helps. Another thing is just take as many pictures of your eyes as you possibly can. One thing that I noticed today when I was taking pictures of my eyes is in the iris, you've got your pupil, but there's also, when it's small, you'll see that there's kind of like a secondary ring right here that I noticed had, you know, it had more kind of like more folds in it, but it wasn't as dark and didn't have as many flecks as in the rest of my eye. So just something to think about when you are doing your artwork. If there are any specific questions that you have about anything, please feel free to let me know. I'll try and answer them the best that I can, but I hope that this tutorial helps anybody out with how they draw eyes. All right, thanks.